Hey guys, so I'm going to be starting part 2 video on the refurbishing of this 2001 Argo Bigfoot 6x6. So in the last video I did, we were waiting for these front chains, which we got. I got the front chains in and went ahead and installed them. So that one was really tight getting in there. That one pretty much went in without having to use the special vice grips. So I use these vice grips, and what they do is they clamp on into the chain so that you can squeeze that chain together to get the master cylinder in. So, well, we got that, and we're still waiting for the starter to come in. That should be in, I don't know, like the second or third. So we'll get that. A few other things that I'm going to need to do. Get rid of those pins. Those take really thin, small bolts. I don't know why somebody put that in there. And also on the lever, see that broken piece right here? So that's broke. And what that is, there's a rod, like here, I'll show you on the other side. Right, so that's broken on this side here, but I have some extras. Got a couple of ones that I can use. I keep a little extra parts bin for the Argos. We're just putting the tires back on it so I can make it a rolling chassis again and move it around if I need to. And like I said, wait for the starter motor to come in for the engine, and we're going to drop that in and see how it goes. Well, I got the starter put in. It's located down there. I just set the motor in there so I can hook up the starter relay and the cables and everything to the starter and the kill switch wire and such. So the engine's just kind of just sitting in there. It's not bolted in. All right, so I've got pretty much everything hooked up. Got a new, what is that, a starter coil right there. Batteries hooked up. I ended up getting a new ignition switch, 6-pole. That one was just bad. I had to do a little bit of rewiring, switching the wires around in the harness to match up. So like B is for red, that kind of thing. Well, B for red on this one was on a different leg, but that's pretty easy. So the coils on these things generally have one of those. It's a wire that's a diode wire that only allows power one way. Well, apparently that wire is not working because it doesn't shut the engine off using the coil shut off switch, starving the coil of power. What it's doing is shuts off with the carburetor, this little gas shut off solenoid thing. So I jumpered it over, and let's see here. As you can see, I'm getting spark. When I go to turn the thing off, see the spark still going? So it's only shutting off by this fuel cutoff. So I'm gonna have to get a wire for that, for those 2 coil packs. But it runs. That's what I'm happy about. And again, I don't have the engine bolted in, so it's just kind of sitting in there loosely because this was just a kind of a test to see if I needed to do any additional tune-ups, and it'd be easier to take this front cover off with the engine out of it. So looks like I'm going to be hunting up a wire now and pulling the engine, pulling that cover off, and installing that new coil wire for the magneto cutoff switch. So, all right, onwards and upwards. Well, I went ahead and yanked the engine back out. So this is that kill wire. Let's see, you can see right there, there's a little diode, right? So it allows power to travel one way, essentially. what that does is it connects the two coils, right? And it cuts spark. When you turn the ignition off, this wire was just supposed to be connected to a black ground, believe it or not. Right here is where I discovered that it came out at. And I'm a knucklehead because, of course, it wasn't hooked up. And I found the wire in the Argo. So, essentially, that's where I got to hook up the ground or black wire to that. And it was tucked up in the wiring harness. And this was it here. And I put this little pigtail on it. And so I can just slide it over that, the bolt, the little bolt pigtail there. But yeah, it was all wrapped up in here. So didn't even have it hooked up. So no wonder the kill switch wasn't working when I was well, now I got to put it back in there, hook it all back up again to make sure that this kill switch does in fact work. And maybe that's why it was disconnected, because it didn't matter. So I'm not putting the cover back on. I'm just gonna drop it in there pretty much like this. I'll put the carburetor and manifold back on it, of course, hook up the fuel pump, but I'm just gonna leave the cover off, because if it doesn't work, then I have to pull it apart anyways to replace this wire. So it's cheap wire. It's like 15, 16 bucks. But these older engines, 2000 model Briggs & Stratton, needed that wire. Well, looks like gotta put this thing partially back together again. All right. So I kind of got everything somewhat put back together again. Basically, it was just a test before I went through all the trouble of putting the front cover back on, only to find out that kill wire was bad. So I've got it hooked up, as you can see, which I didn't have it before. Stupidity is painful sometimes, and this is my pain. But I've got the test light hooked up to show that the coils, the power to the coil is being cut when I turn the ignition off. So let's see here. There's like a kitten. Got start. Turn it off. Spark is killed immediately and the engine shuts down because, well, that's doing its job now. Cool. Now I can unhook these few wires, pull it back out, completely reassemble the engine with the covers and all the crap, and put it in there, hook everything back up, and bolt it down, and I'm ready to go. All right. All right, so hopefully this will be the final time that I have this thing out, and while I do have it out, I'm just going to make sure that everything's tight. Little hose clamps, crap that's going to be a little harder to get to when it's in, and put the cover back on, get it all put back together again, stick it in for the final time, and hook everything up. So, alrighty. Alright, it's all finally done and put back together again. Got it back in, everything's hooked up. I ran the wire straight to the ignition for the carburetor kill solenoid switch right there. It's just a backup. A lot of times people take those things out and clip the little shaft that goes in and out to cut the fuel off. You know, we've got the infamous coil kill wire hooked up right there. Got all the plumbing and stuff done for the cooling fan for the brakes. New battery, everything's hooked up, everything's good to go. It sounds good. Not bad for coming to us as a basket case. We paid $1,800 for the Argo in the condition that it was in when we got it. Now, the tires, they look good, but they're pretty dry rotted. There's a couple of tires that had plugs in them. This one on the sidewall, not good. That thing's been pinched, so we'll keep an eye on it, but eventually we'll get some new tires for it. We still got the rubber molding to put on it. We're gonna put some hot soapy water on the plastic, get that to come back. You know, just some things that need to be done. You're going to redo these back seats. You got to put a couple of rivets back here in the body, and then put the rubber molding back on it again. Eventually build a roll cage and stuff for it. But as far as refurbishing this machine to get it up and running again, I think that it was a success. It's a pretty cool machine for a 2001. It's in really good condition. So the hood, yeah. So somebody made this hood for it right here. It's just a fiberglass hood. Looks like shit. A for effort. I'll give them an A for effort for just even trying to make something to cover up the engine when you're out and about, so nothing's dropping down into the engine bay and stuff. But we're going to do better than that. We're going to buy a sheet of this polyethylene plastic. Think of it like Kydex, if you've ever worked with Kydex before. It's a thermal mold plastic, so once you heat it up, it gets real floppy and everything. We're going to make a mold of the Argo Conquest hood here and make a vacuum box for it. Buy a sheet of this stuff, heat it up, and suck it down, and hopefully make a perfect replica of this hood for the Bigfoot. Because I'm not going to spend $450 for a hood that Argo charges. And one of the main reasons why people lose the hoods is when they're trailering them. The front latch system on the older Argos is flawed, so it would come undone and the hood would fly off when you're trailering it and driving it down the highway, and you'd lose a $450 hood. So I was going to give you guys a tip here on cleaning and maintaining these bodies. So we use scouring pads on this to get the grease and the dirt and the grime that was embedded in the plastic. So you can see it roughed it up pretty good. It's kind of a frosted color, whereas over here is nice and shiny and yellow. Well, how I achieve that is with a blowtorch. So don't turn it up high or anything like that. And then we're just going to sweep over it. Sweep over the plastic. Don't stay too long in one area. You can see it kind of go darker yellow and become shiny again. I don't know if you can see all that. Look at that. How shiny that went. Now it's smooth to the touch again. When we hit it with the steel wool and stuff, and it made it all really dingy, the fibers and everything are aggravated. So we're just melting them back down again. That's how you bring the color back and the plastics back on this. Now if you do this and there's an oil stain or some dirt on it, it's going to kind of melt it into the plastic. Again, we're not staying too long in one area, it's just very fast. Just enough to where you can see the plastic start to change a color here. There you go. Look at that. Beautiful. But yeah, you get the point. That's how you bring those plastics back to life. So, all right, guys. Appreciate you watching. Yeah, I'm really pleased how it turned out. So, next video up, we're gonna get this thing down on the property and take it on some challenging terrain. Obstacles and stuff, and have some fun with it. All right, guys, thanks for watching.